Ready whenever you are, Michael.
There is a moment in this film, about 40 minutes in, where I genuinely forgot I was watching someone else. Not Michael Jackson, someone playing Michael Jackson. I forgot that distinction, completely. That has never happened to me in a music biopic before. Not with Rami Malek, not with Austin Butler, not once. So, is Michael worth watching? The answer is yes, but it comes with an asterisk. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that asterisk means and whether it applies to you. Let me give you some context first, because this film had one of the most troubled productions in recent Hollywood history. $155 million budget, multiple delays. The entire third act was reshot because of a legal dispute with a settlement from the 1990s. Paris Jackson, Michael's own daughter, publicly distanced herself from the project and said the script was, in her words, sugar-coated. And here's the thing nobody in the hype cycle is talking about. This film makes a very deliberate choice about what story it wants to tell. It covers Michael Jackson from his Jackson 5 years through his early solo peak, Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad. And it stops there. There's something this film quietly avoids, and I'm not going to pretend that choice doesn't exist. But here's what I'll say about it. The choice was made. It's baked into the DNA of the film. And once you accept that this is a film about the rise of Michael Jackson, not the totality of his life, it starts to make more sense. The real question isn't whether the film is good or bad in the abstract. The real question is, what kind of film did they actually make? And is that the film you want to see? Let's start with what this film gets absolutely, undeniably right. Jaafar Jackson is 29 years old. This is his first film, and I genuinely don't know how to explain what he does in this movie without just showing you. Watch this. That's not mimicry. That's not impression. That's something that lives in the body, in the wrists, in the stillness before the movement breaks, in the way the feet hit the floor. What makes it uncanny isn't just the physical resemblance. It's that Jaafar understands something about Michael Jackson that most performers miss: the stillness, the absolute economy of movement between the explosions. He doesn't perform Michael Jackson. He inhabits the silence around him. There are moments watching this film where I found myself feeling something I didn't expect to feel, because the performance is so convincing that it makes you feel the loss of the real person more acutely. That is not a small achievement. That is extraordinary. Now, the musical sequences. If you go to this film for one reason, go for these. Director Antoine Fuqua, who made Training Day, who made Southpaw, knows how to build physical intensity on screen. And when he turns that skill toward a performance sequence, the result is genuinely cinematic. The Billie Jean sequence, the Thriller choreography, these aren't concert footage recreations. They feel like something you haven't seen before, a specific visual language for what it felt like to be in that room when Michael Jackson performed. At one point, the camera does something with a crowd reaction that I've never seen in a music biopic. I won't spoil it, but it stopped me cold. And then there's Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson. Coleman Domingo is having a moment in Hollywood right now, and this performance reminds you exactly why. His Joe Jackson is not a villain. He's not a monster. He's something more complicated and more disturbing. A man who genuinely believed that what he was doing was love. The scenes between young Michael and Joe are the dramatic spine of the first half of the film, and Domingo carries them with a terrifying, quiet authority. Every scene with him in it has a tension that doesn't release until he leaves the frame. If there's an awards conversation to be had about this film, it starts and ends with him. Okay, I said this was an honest review, so here's the honest part. Between those musical sequences and Jaafar's performance, there is a film that plays it safe in ways that sometimes undercut what it's trying to be. The dialogue outside of the Joe Jackson scenes is often exactly what you'd expect. Inspirational lines, industry speak, emotional pivots that feel written rather than discovered. At one point, a character literally says, "You're going to change the world, Michael. We know he's going to change the world. That's why we bought the ticket." The best biopics find humanity in the gaps, the private moments that don't make the history books. This film occasionally finds those gaps, but then it rushes back to the greatest hits, literally and figuratively. The first half of this film is tight. The Jackson 5 years, the emergence of young Michael, the tension with his father. It builds with real narrative discipline. The second half, the thriller era onward, starts to feel like a highlight reel. Like the film isn't sure what it wants to say anymore, so it just shows you things you already know happened. And that's where the runtime starts to feel like a runtime. I said earlier that there's something this film avoids. I'm going to name it once and move on. Michael Jackson's life after Thriller. The allegations, the trials, the complexity is not in this film. The film ends before all of that becomes part of the story. Whether that's the right choice, I'll leave for you to decide. What I'll say is this. The film is honest about what it is. It's a film about the rise, not the full arc, and it earns that choice, just barely, through the strength of what it does include. But you deserve to know it going in.